Hi again, everyone. Before I get into the challenge videos for the results for week 1, I wanted to give you an update on what happened during week 1. I consider the first week of this challenge to be a win and a fail, meaning I only got part of my challenge done. I did not use the green beans, the shredded cabbage, the white beans, or the frozen bananas. So I guess it's really more of a fail than a win because I used only 3 of the challenge ingredients, which were the orzo, the curry powder, and something else. What else? Oh, the chicken broth, or chicken stock. My entire family got sick this week. We all had some kind of stomach virus, and we just really did not feel like cooking a lot or eating a lot this week, especially my husband. He's just really been, he has spent most of the week in bed. So what I'm going to do with week 2 is the ingredients that I challenge myself with for week 2. I'm going to add these 4 ingredients so that I will use them up. So it's going to be a really big challenge week because I'm going to have 11 ingredients to use instead of just 7. So we will see how that goes. Hopefully I'll be able to find some creative uses for each one of these things, and we'll just see how I do. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the challenge recipes that I did get done, and I hope you enjoy them. Again, everyone, for my lunch today, I'm going to be making one of my challenge meals where I have chosen some ingredients from my pantry, and I'm going to try to use them up this week. So today for lunch, I'm going to make a frittata, and here's what I'm going to be using: my home canned chicken stock, the little jar of orzo, and those are both challenge ingredients. I'm probably not going to use all of the chicken stock because all I'm going to be doing is cooking something in it. So I do have some plans for using that in another dish, so I will probably drain off the chicken stock and put it back in the jar and put it in the fridge when I'm finished with it, because I'm only going to need a little bit for the next recipe, and also because of the things that I'm going to be cooking in the chicken stock, it's going to have a great flavor. But if I don't have enough, I have plenty of chicken stock on my shelf over there. Also from the pantry, I'm going to be using some dehydrated mushrooms, dehydrated green onions, and dehydrated onions. I dehydrated all of those myself. And if you'd like to see a video on how I do that, let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to do that next time I dehydrate some things. If you don't have dehydrated ingredients on hand, that's perfectly fine. You can absolutely use fresh. In fact, I'm going to be using some fresh ingredients on hand, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Also from the pantry, some olive oil, salt, and pepper. Then from the fridge, I'm using some fresh spinach, 2 eggs, some feta cheese, and then some bell peppers that I already had chopped up that I had left over from another recipe. And here's what I was talking about if using fresh versus dehydrated. I do have some dehydrated bell peppers in my pantry, but because I already had these bell peppers in the fridge, I'm just going to use those instead of rehydrating the stuff that I have in the pantry. It will last for a very long time. These peppers will not, so I can go ahead and use those. And if you wanted to use fresh ingredients for everything, all it's going to mean is just a little bit more chopping. So that's perfectly fine to substitute that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get the chicken stock in a small saute pan, or saucepan, excuse me, and put probably about a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons of the dried mushrooms in the chicken stock and get that boiling. The reason that I'm going to do that first is the mushrooms are kind of large and they're going to take the longest amount of time to rehydrate. Not really cooking, just really rehydrating. So I'm going to get that going and I'll bring you back when I'm ready for the next step. Okay, I am back and my mushrooms are in the chicken broth and they have been boiling for about 3 to 4 minutes. So now I'm going to put in a teaspoon of dehydrated onion and a teaspoon of dehydrated green onion, and let those begin to rehydrate. I did put a little salt and pepper in this chicken broth, and I'll probably put a little bit more in before I put the orzo in, because mushrooms absorb a lot of salt, and of course so does pasta. So I'm going to get the other dehydrated vegetables cooking, and I'll be right back. I am back now. It looks like the vegetables are rehydrating, so I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of the bell pepper, the chopped bell pepper. And I would normally just saute this, but because everything else is going to be cooked like this, I just thought I'd go ahead and throw the bell peppers in there. And now I'm going to add the orzo. Okay, so the orzo's going in. And, you know, I might need to add a little bit of water, but we'll see. So I'm going to let the pasta cook. I'm going to add a little more salt, a little more pepper. And we'll be back when this is done. Okay, folks, I'm back. My pasta and vegetables are done. I did add some more water to it, and probably about half a cup total. So I'm just going to set this aside for just a minute. I'm only going to use about half of this in my frittata, and then I'm going to put the other half back in the fridge to use in the same dish later in the week. Now, in my skillet, I have a little bit of olive oil heating up, and I'm going to drop in a couple of handsful of fresh spinach. It's trying to escape. And I'm just going to let this start cooking over medium heat. Little salt, little pepper. I can't do the pepper mill with one hand, so I'll be back in a minute after I do that. When it starts to wilt a little bit, I'm going to put the rest of the ingredients in. Okay, my spinach has wilted down, and now I'm going to add about half of the orzo and vegetables. And I'm trying to do this all with one hand, and I'm making a big old mess. But that's okay. That's what they make rags for, right? Okay, about half of that. Just going to spread it around. And then I have my eggs, and I usually add some dairy to my eggs. And so I didn't want to add a lot of extra fat. So I just put a little bit, about a teaspoon of non-fat Greek yogurt in the eggs, and just to give them a little bit of body. So let me pour that on and get the rest of it out, and I'll bring you right back. As soon as you get the eggs in, you're going to mix it up just a little bit, just to get everything combined, and you can see it's already starting to set on the edges, which is perfect. And I'm going to make sure it's spread evenly, and then I'm done. Now I'm going to let it cook here on the stove over medium heat for just a few minutes till it gets set, and then I'm going to finish it off in the oven at 350. And I'm going to put a little bit of feta cheese on top of it, and then I'll eat. So, but one thing I wanted to tell you is the amount of orzo that I had in that jar was probably about a half a cup. So it doesn't take a whole lot. You could certainly do this with rice. Actually, when I came up with this idea, I wanted to use quinoa. But because orzo was on my challenge list this week, I just decided to use the orzo instead. So I'm going to let this finish cooling and put it in the fridge. Let this finish cooking, and then I'm going to eat. Okay, here is my frittata. It turned out perfect. I flipped it over like an omelet when I took it out of the pan. I'm eating it with some feta cheese on top of it, and just a salad of romaine lettuce, some more of the bell peppers, and balsamic vinegar and olive oil. And you could probably eat half of this for a light lunch, or the whole thing for a nice dinner with some bread. I'm going to eat the whole thing for lunch because I got a late start this morning and I didn't eat breakfast, so I'm hungry, and it's 12:23. So I'm going to taste it and see how it is. Oh my gosh, that is delicious. I don't think I've ever made frittata with pasta in it before. I've made it with potatoes, but never with pasta. I really like this. I think this would be good, like I said earlier, with some quinoa, or even brown rice, or leftover white rice, whatever. I wanted to try to make it a little healthier the next time I make it, so I'll probably use quinoa or something like that. I thought I got a little bit choked. Well, this is really good. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I will continue it with the rest of the challenge ingredients later on in the week. I'll see you soon. Okay, we are continuing our challenge this week, and tonight I'm making curry chicken salad. I know that this is a pretty common dish, but I've never made it before, so it's new to me. So we're gonna do our best. In my bowl, I have some sour cream and some mayonnaise, and I'm just eyeballing all of this because I really don't know how much we're going to use. I'm just going to put the ingredients in there till they taste good. Now I'm going to put in some salt and some pepper. We like a lot of pepper. Now I'm going to put in, I'm going to start with a teaspoon of curry powder. And I'm going to whisk this together. Oops, sorry, that was my finger in front of the camera. I'm probably going to end up putting more of everything in here, but I started with about a cup of each one of these. Maybe 3/4 of a cup of each one. And I think I am going to put some more. So let me get this to where I think it needs to be, and I'll bring you back. I ended up putting a couple of tablespoons of Miracle Whip in. Sorry about that, folks. My battery died. What I did, I put a couple of tablespoons of Miracle Whip in with about a cup of mayonnaise and a cup of sour cream, a tablespoon of curry powder. I did add some more, and salt and pepper to taste. And then I cut up 2 stalks of celery and 1 apple. And I cut those up very finely. Now I am tossing in the chicken. And I think it's going to be wonderful. And then I've got some grapes that I'm going to have. And put those on the side because I have some people who don't like grapes in their chicken salad. And I've got some walnuts that I'm going to chop up and put on the side. But I think this is going to be delicious, and I'm going to give it a taste. Eric and I just tasted it. It is delicious. I'm going to put some grapes and walnuts on the side, but this is really good. Thank you so much for joining me.